Is Russell Brand mad, bad, and dangerous to know, or is he under attack from forces darker than his eyeliner? Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to find out what is really going on with them. Where's the truth and where's the deception? And it's Russell Brand that we're looking at in this video. Russell has been accused of some very serious things. I'm not going to go into the allegations too deeply for the sake of YouTube moderation, and he doesn't either, potentially for the same reason. But Russell released this video before the accusations against him became public. He got in front of the story, and he's strenuously denying these allegations. But we're going to have a look at the words that he chooses to use and see if we can learn more by being really picky on his word choice and what his statements say. Do we believe these denials, or should we question these denials? And this is a fascinating insight, because we won't just learn what he thinks about the allegations. We'll look at whether his denial rings true, but we'll look at his words to see what his priorities right now, what he's thinking. It should be said that Russell Brand seriously denies the allegations that have been put to him. He made his first video in front of a boarded wall, which seems to be all the rage at the moment. It worked for Drew Barrymore and Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. An interesting observation there. What's a reliable denial? Well, mostly reliable denials are straightforward. There's nothing needless in them. They're very straight to the point. Often in a reliable denial, the person denying it will repeat the allegation made. They'll take the allegation head on. For example, they'll say, I didn't murder that person, rather than I didn't attack them. Even down with kids, if they say, I didn't steal the cookies, that's more reliable than I didn't do it. And no misdirection either. Like, this is part of the straightforward, but there's no attempt to build narratives or anything like that. In a reliable denial, it's very straightforward. It deals with the denial and it knocks back the denial in a very straightforward way. How about unreliable denials? What are the hallmarks of those? They're not straightforward. They're qualified, or there's some sort of spin around them. Sometimes they're turned up to 11. You know, I really, 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 really want you to believe me. In unreliable denials as well, downplaying the allegations is common, just like we spoke about of reliable denials really taking on the allegation. In unreliable ones, they'll downplay what happens, you know. So rather than saying, I didn't steal the money from the bank, they'll be like, I didn't take the money. The child will say, I didn't do it, rather than I didn't take the cookie. Unreliable denials often feature the I'm the real victim feel as well. You know, I'm the victim here, not the person making the allegations. They're not the victim of me. I'm the real victim here. Often in unreliable denials, we'll also see this concept of I'm doing this for other people. You know, it's the concept of social proof, if you want to read in that. I'm doing this for other people. Other people believe in me. I'm doing this to make the world a better place for other people. And also, often there is an admission of smaller offences. We see this in really serious crime cases where people are suddenly really happy to tell people that they were doing illegal drugs. I think the inference there is, look, if I can be honest about doing illegal drugs, small time illegal acts, then I can't possibly be lying when I say I didn't do the big time illegal act. So those are the things to look out for as we go through Russell's words in his video. He starts with, hello there, you awakening wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news and all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. The first words that someone says are often really telling, really important, and especially when it's a message to someone. And we can see here he's addressing this, hello there, you awakening wonders. He's addressing this to his fans, the subscribers to his channels. That's who he's talking to. Yeah, he may want the wider audience to take this in and look at what it is he has to say, but he wants to talk directly to his large army of fans and feel like they're being spoken to directly here. Again, we see this potentially as the type of video that we make on this channel, not that I make on this channel. where we critique attack, etc. It's not where I critique attack. So is he using that we? Does that show there's more than him working on the channel? Possibly. We'll come to that a little bit later. But I think really what he's doing is using we to make his fans, the people who subscribe to his channels and hang on his every word, to make them feel really bonded to him. He addresses them straight away, and then he talks about we. So this is a group of people all together doing this. It's not just Russell Brand on his own. He then talks about I. So he's taken ownership of what's happened. I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters. I absolutely refute. So he's now moved from talking about we to talking about himself. I am the news is interesting choice of words, kind of downplaying what's happened. Actually, it's true, he is the news. He has been the news for a while since making this video, but that's the frame he's chosen for this narrative. I am the news, not I have been accused of very serious matters. No, it's I am the news. He talks about a mainstream TV company. And again, I think this is getting the fans of his videos on his side, many of them suspicious of mainstream media. And I think that this is working to get them on his side. Mainstream media is bad, or you should be suspicious or skeptical of them. So you should be suspicious and skeptical of everything that is coming from them about me. He turns up the heat of the allegations here. He says it's a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, and then again, a litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks. No, none of these say they're false. Just because there's a litany of them, because they're extremely egregious, just because they're aggressive, just because they're astonishing, and because they're baroque, strange word to use, none of that says that any of these are false. No, he's just turning up the severity of them. And as you'll notice, he calls them attacks as well. So he's really wanting to frame these as attacks, aggressive, they're astonishing. None of that adds anything to what it is he's saying other than turning up the severity of it. You'll notice then that despite calling them attacks and extremely egregious and aggressive, he leads not with the serious allegations, but the pretty stupid stuff, in his words. The first thing, that the substance that he mentions of these is the pretty stupid stuff. My community festival should be stopped. That I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. So he leads with the froth, he leads with the small stuff, and actually he gives more detail on that small stuff than any of the serious allegations that have been pointed his way. And finally, at the end, he says these are very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. He finally gets to the point of the very serious allegations. Now, why didn't he just say I refute? Why add absolutely in there? Often, it could be the case here, it might not be. People add words like absolutely before something else to turn up the severity of it. If they're not feeling that they're going to be believed when they say it, they'll add another word to make it feel like, oh, I really, really believe this. I don't just refute it, I absolutely refute it. You can only refute something or not refute something. You can't really refute something, but he's adding that word in there for a reason. Next from Russell Brand. He says, these allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and, as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, this is a really interesting one because what is it that he is saying here? He attempts to point out his behavior was because of where he was working. It wasn't his fault. It was the people he was working for, the mainstream, the newspapers, the movies. I mean, is that what he's trying to say here? Because that's not really credible, is it? I don't know why he mentions it here, but he has, after taking on the allegations and finally mentioning them, he now attempts to set the scene. Bear in mind, he's accused of extremely serious crimes, and the scene that he sets isn't that, these didn't happen. It's that I was very, very promiscuous. And that's not the allegation that's being made about him. He doesn't say, I've always behaved with respect to women, or that I've only ever had consensual interactions with women. It's that I was very, very promiscuous. Russell, the allegations aren't you were promiscuous. He does as well talk about, I've written about extensively in my books, and I think that's going to become something of a repeated theme through this statement that we'll look at later. Russell says, now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent, and I'm being very transparent. I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? So we've got promiscuous coming up again. So he's repeating that word promiscuous a lot. Notice that it's only during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. So is he saying outside of that time of promiscuity, something else was going on? It's what his words are leading to there. Very interesting that he chooses that. The relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. He's added absolutely in again, just like he absolutely refuted the last time. They were absolutely always consensual. Absolutely is a trigger word for me. When someone says absolutely, it doesn't automatically mean they're lying or deceiving you, but it's a word that comes up so often in deception. When I see absolutely used, especially if I see it used a lot, I ask, why does that person not just say things straightforwardly, but why are they turning up this the believability in their heads of it with words like absolutely? This is also strange wording. The relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. Now, why has he worded it like that? Because relationships aren't consensual. What happens in a relationship, what the interactions between people, those are the things where consent is involved. Relationships, less so. Also, what definition of relationship is he using? We all have relationships with each other. We're all related or relate in some ways with each other. So in that sense, he's had relationships with everyone who's making these accusations. But is he talking about relationships, and I think he is here, as being in a relationship with someone, in which case then that means that only things that happened inside relationships were consensual, but maybe what we consider outside being in a relationship with someone, like a one-night stand or a one-off thing, are not covered by this part of what he says, if that's the definition of relationship that he is using. It's also worth pointing out, by the way, that some of the allegations aren't really about consent or promiscuity. They're about inappropriateness and abuse of power as well. And these are not being tackled in this part of his statement. Transparent or transparency is said 4 times in this section, as you can see. So it's very important to him if he's talking about transparency. Now, it's not his transparency that is being called into question. It's his actions that are being called into question. And it's the words of other people. So, yeah, some of the accusations that he's accused of, or some of the things he's accused of, are aligned with statements that he's made in his books or in his stand-up when he has been transparent. But he's not taken on the full list of all the allegations. And also, he mentions transparent so much, and he's almost too transparent, he says at times. I think we're starting to see, when he talks about that he's written about this extensively in his books as well, that he's beginning to regret some of the things that he's included in his work, because these bits of work are now coming back to haunt him. He absolutely denies it. He absolutely was always consensual, and he absolutely denies it. That word absolutely keeps coming up for Russell Brand in this part of the statement. And then this is kind of interesting, this bit at the end. It makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Now, if you there's an article I'll link to in the description which looks at the content of Russell Brand's other videos, and what it says is that although he appears to be saying some controversial things that people really buy into because they go against the mainstream ways of thinking, what he does more often is pose questions. So he doesn't say things outright that he believes or he knows. He poses questions and lets people come up with their own answers, which is a fine way of being. But you'll see here, he's not saying outright there's another agenda at play here. He's not saying I'm a victim of a conspiracy. He's only saying it makes me question, is there another agenda at play? So he's not saying there is another agenda at play? He's asking the question, is there another agenda at play? That's less strong. It shows, and it's very honest. It's him, not him saying there is another agenda at play, and I know it. He's letting us in on his thinking. He's questioning, is there another agenda at play? Again, when I was speaking about some of the allegations there about inappropriateness and abuse of power, and he says there he absolutely denies the something criminal. So some of the less criminal allegations don't get covered in that denial. Russell Brand continues, particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of, and we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. Now, his message here isn't, I didn't do the things I'm accused of, it's the media making them up. It's more, some other things have happened to some other people. Actually, when they did do things, they got attacked for it, rightly or wrongly. Yeah. Again, mainstream media put in, just so that the people who watch his channel who are skeptical of mainstream media really get his message that mainstream media are doing this. Therefore, you shouldn't believe what is going on. Russell continues, I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you. You're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people. I know for ages and ages, it's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. There's a lot in this part. I'm aware, you guys have been saying in the comments for a while. Not he's read his comments and he knows, he's aware. Remember I said this theory that he's not the only person working on this channel, which is fair enough. It doesn't make any of the allegations against him true. But he's aware of what people are saying. That means someone has told him what people are saying rather than he's really taken a deep dive in and connected with what people are saying. There's an interesting correction that he makes here. He says, it's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces. So he says it in an absolute, it's been clear to me, that is happening, is clear. And then he turns it down and says, or at least it feels to me that there's a serious and concerted agenda. So once again, he's not saying there is this thing happening. I know there's an agenda against me. I know there's a conspiracy. It's just, it feels to me like there's a conspiracy. He talks about being aware of the news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. He doesn't say what these phone calls or sending letters are about. He doesn't even say it's about him. He's just aware, again, of these things happening. But there's nothing in there to say, what they've been asking, what they've been talking about. It doesn't even say it's about him here. It's just more words to get this conspiracy theory, to get this concerted agenda against him, to get the feeling of that out there, to build that narrative. And then at the end, again, he's connecting up with his people. He's connecting up with his fans. So this is not just about him, but it's about you guys and what you have been saying. You guys are smart. You guys are like me. And then he talks about this is not just about his voice, but your voice as well. So he's really trying to connect into his fan base with this. And this is not just about me, Russell Brand, but this is about all of you. Russell then continues, I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. So we've got seriously refute. Once again, he can't just refute or deny something. He has to put a word in before that doesn't change the meaning of what he said, but changes, in his head, the strength of what he said. Why does he always want to change the strength of what he said to turn it up? There are many reasons why that could be possible. Every time he denies or refutes, it's bigger than just straightforward. He's trying hard. He's on to promiscuity again, as we've dealt with this before. This is really, the allegations are not about being promiscuous. And we see the language of manipulation in here, because he does say, I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. Now, first of all, again, we've got the third time he's really spoken about the fact that what he said in the past in books and stand-up coming back to haunt him. But he says, I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous and consensual conduct in the past. Well, that's fine. What that really is saying is that in a manipulative way, I don't mind when people use my words, but I don't like others having their say on my behavior. That's controlling. That is manipulative. And finally, seriously refute these serious criminal allegations. As I've spoken about before, there's more than just criminal allegations going on here, and those are not covered in this denial. Russell Brand continues, also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Okay, so there's witnesses. Why are we not talking about them anymore? Why are we not talking about how they directly contradict the narratives? And notice it's only directly contradicts the narratives, it's not the allegations. But there's no more to this. It really kind of empty words. And again, words like narratives and mainstream media that really delight his fans. And attack. Again, the war metaphor here is very strong. Russell does feel like he's under attack, but notice here, it's again, it is a coordinated attack. It's what seems to me so very, very weak. Very qualified. It only seems to him to be a coordinated attack. It not is a coordinated attack. Russell finishes with, now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations. But I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free. Once again, the attack is only, I feel like I'm being attacked. I've seen enough of this now to know that Russell Brand doesn't believe he's being attacked, and he's being honest here. He's not saying I believe I'm being attacked, and he's not saying I am being attacked. He's being honest with us and just saying, I feel like it's an attack. So he's not being outright and saying, boom, this is an attack. This is a coordinated effort to get me. He's telling us what it seems like to him and what it feels like to him. He does realize that this is very serious. It's very, very serious. There's a serious nature to these allegations. So he is acknowledging the severity of what he is being accused of. So that's Russell's statement. What are my conclusions? Well, it's more about driving the narrative than it is about denying the allegations. There is denial there, but it's often qualified. It's often limited in what it denies when he's talking about it. And I think Russell absolutely regrets his previous words. I used the word absolutely there. Am I being deceptive? Yeah, I think Russell Brand does regret his previous words in his books and his stand-up. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you believe Russell Brand that he's under attack? Or do you think that actually this displays a lot of the characteristics of an unreliable denial, but done by a very verbose and eloquent talker who can spin a fine story when he wants to? Let me know in the comments below. I read all the comments that are sent my way, so it'd be great to get your thoughts. If you want to connect socially, neveratruerword.com is where you can get hold of me. Posts.neveratruerword.com is where you can see some of the written work and looking at how to analyze what people are saying to get to the truth, to get to deception, and also to find out what people are really thinking when it comes out in their words. And if you want to skill yourself some more, books.neveratruerword.com is where you can get a couple of books that will help you decode what it is that people are saying to you and understand what is really going on with them. And you might find some more videos on this channel, videos.neveratruerword. We'll see you again soon for another video from Never a Truer Word.